Good evening and welcome to the AIF session. Once again, 2025, we are having the empathy conference. We have chosen this topic of creating kind classrooms, and we've got 16 wonderful panelists today from across India who's going to share their experience, their expertise, and what they have learned through their teaching experience of dealing with students, parents, and other stakeholders of the schools. So, on this note, I want to welcome all the panelists, first of all, and all those who have joined us live, and all who will be joining us shortly in the next panel. I'm sure it's going to be a very, very enriching experience because we have principals, we have counselors from CBSE, NCRT resource persons. So, we have a lot of people with a lot of experience. Now, as Toni Morrison puts it very beautifully, if there is a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, you must be the one to write it. So today we are writing a new chapter collectively through our conversation, one which can promote understanding, tolerance, and responsible use of language in our classrooms. And that is our aim. Considering the immense amount of social media our children are exposed to, we cannot compare the situation 10 years back and what it is now. There is a lot of challenges which the children have to face. There are a lot more challenges which educators have to face in the classroom. We know that the classroom is no longer restricted to the four walls. Classroom is much beyond. Learning takes place much beyond. So sometimes, when we have these parent-teacher meetings or we meet parents at random, they come up with these problems that we don't know how the language is deteriorating. The language of the students are deteriorating. They are taking to social media influencers, and what is happening, the habit of reading, the habit of listening is slowly doing a disappearing act. So we are here to discuss this, and I'm sure the next 2 years, 2 hours is going to be a lot of enriching uh, give and take. I'm sure the audience also has a lot of questions to ask. I can already see a stream of comments on our YouTube as it is going live. I know that so many of you have joined. And to begin the session, we have a very, very experienced principal, Archana Rodriguez, ma'am, who is going to be our first speaker. And she is going to start off this session by introducing all of us to the topic, first of all. And to introduce her, she is the principal of St. Joseph's, Mumbai, and she's also the president of the Private Unaided Schools Management Association, so which is covering thousands of schools. So I'm sure in her interaction and her words will have a lot of meaning here for us, and there will be a lot of action plan that we as educators, we as schools, or even as parents and children, we can carry back to our own classrooms. So on this note, I want to welcome you all once again to this session, and it's over to you, Archana ma'am.
Thank you, Matthew, sir. In fact, you flatter me when you say that my expertise, I'm here for a purely selfish reason to learn from everyone over here. This topic is so pertinent, and like you rightly said, we are starting a new chapter here. This topic is so sore for most principals. I would say all the principals and teachers alike. And it's a collective inability to speak about this topic that has actually brought us together today. It's an inability because it's a topic which is very, very difficult to address and very difficult to handle. I'm sure all the educators here would have been experiencing a certain sense of helplessness when a child uses bad language. Whether it is as a parent or whether it is as a teacher, it becomes extremely difficult for us to handle the situation, to control our impulses, to control our reactions. So today, with all the esteemed speakers over here, as a keynote speaker, I would like to just introduce the topic to everyone by saying that this topic is something which can be handled very, very tactfully and diplomatically by taking into consideration the emotional needs of the child. From a purely behavioristic point of view, as an educator, if I speak from a purely behavioral point of view, it is clearly known that every behavior is a product of its consequences. What happens after the behavior has been conducted by the child is very important to control the behavior. So when we look at that, we look at our reactions when a child uses a cuss word or a bad language or abuses somebody. What happens in the environment? It's important for us to understand the reactions which the peers give, the friends give, we as adults how we react. And if we can control that, the key to controlling this behavior is just controlling the reactions that the particular behavior can bring about. So that's very important. We need to identify the negative aspects of the behavior and not give it undue attention, because we need to understand where the child is coming from. Sometimes the child might be going through certain issues, emotional issues. Maybe he's trying to seek your attention. Maybe he's trying to say something to seek attention from his friends. So, all these things need to be taken into consideration before we act on it, and not before we react on it. It's important not to react. The idea is to take the child's behavior and look at the totality of the situation. Why did this happen? What is it that is making the child react in a particular manner? Sometimes it is just peer pressure. Sometimes it is just the need to conform to what everyone else is saying. And we all know, like Matthew sir rightly said, that post COVID, from 2020 onwards, children have been exposed to a huge amount of social media. But who is to blame for this? Who is the one who is responsible for this kind of onset of bad language in schools? We need to really start thinking. This kind of language is there in the songs that they hear. It's there in their favorite social media reels that they see. It's all around them. It's in the TV. It's all over. How do we control the child from knowing and making a regulated choice? There's a new buzzword called co-regulation, which is very important when we are considering the emotional aspect of the child. So, why is the child saying that? Addressing that issue would require us to understand the emotional mindset of the child. Why is this happening? So, as teachers, as educators, we take on the role of also the counselors by understanding that this particular behavior needs to be addressed not just from one child to one teacher, it needs to be addressed at the school level. Now, how do we address this at the school level? When we again look at the behavioralistic aspect, we need to positively enforce and positively reinforce the positive behaviors while targeting the behaviors which we don't want the child to reiterate all the time. So at the school level, I would say I don't want to go into the strategies because I would not want to take the thunder away from the 16 panelists who are here, but a simple something like maybe a debate about the pros and cons of good behavior, respect, empathy in the class. And believe me, something somewhere where the child is supposed to argue for a particular point of view would work really well. Maybe we can have conferences where we speak in the school, where the council members take up certain responsibilities and speak about the importance of respect and kindness in the classroom, the importance of being role models to the junior students. All these aspects need to be taken into consideration, while at the same time the teacher has to have a specific set of rules, and the consequences of breaking those rules need to be clearly explained to the child. If the consequences are very clear in the classroom and in the school campus, I don't think the child would overstep and break the rule, because the consequences have been clearly explained to him. Let us understand here that this abusive language, this anger, this frustration is stemming from an internal emotional requirement for the child to be recognized, to be heard. Sometimes when you enter into a classroom, you will find that a child is doing something really acceptable, like maybe opening his book and reading or doing what the teacher is saying. But most of the time, the child is ignored because he's doing what is expected. But the moment the child does something which he's not expected to do, he gets all the attention in the world. So the key to controlling this behavior is to control the consequences of why this happens. And yes, from a school perspective, from a wider perspective in the school, it is important for us to document. Documentation is key here. When we document each and every time that the child has, so we have something like a behavioral chart, wherein every time a class has a behavioral chart where every time the child uses abusive language, he or she gets marked on it. And at the end of the week, there are rewards for good behavior. That kind of a behavioral chart, very simple and very, very rudimentary, I would say now, in today's day and age when there are so many fancy tools, online tools which are available. A rudimentary behavioral chart can work wonders. Involving the child. How can we involve the child in this challenge? Each and every child, if they are made to feel responsible for the language that is used in the school, I think it will work wonders for developing a concept of empathy and kindness and good language in the school. So some children use cuss words just because it's acceptable by their peers. It sounds cool. So what is cool and what is not cool? All these things need to be explained to the child. We need to have a dialogue. Our issue, like I said, it's a collective inability to discuss this, is our inability to use these words in front of the child, and also to say this is what you said. So we don't know how to say it, so we say dash dash, you said this, or you said the n word, or you said a four letter word. We feel so uncomfortable in the situation. If we can overcome that discomfort for this the Gen Z or the alpha generation that we are handling now, I think that will make a big inroad by opening the area where we can talk to the child about it, that why this is disrespectful. Why do I feel disrespected even when you're not directing the words towards me? You're directing the words to someone else, but I feel disrespected. You feel disrespected when you are being subjected to hear words like that. So that kind of training would help. And from a purely teacher to student point of view, a very empathetic handling of the situation would be needed, because we cannot overlook the emotional quotient of the child, where we know that yes, emotionally some children have become very fragile post covid because of the extended hours of isolation they had to face, the extended loneliness which they feel. There are a lot of depression issues and suicide issues in children post this covid era. So we need to also understand why a child is doing this. Involving the parents would play a key role in this. Talking to the parents, telling them, yes, this is the issue. Can we address this in a positive way? What is the language that is being used at home? What is the child being exposed to? All these areas. So one can be very clear here that the exposure cannot stop. We cannot control the child from being exposed. Like I said, it's all over the place. But the child needs to be given the autonomy and the right tools for regulating his or her behavior, so that he or she knows this is acceptable and this is not acceptable. This is polite language and this is not. So, lastly, I would like to say that when a child does not read, we teach as teachers. When a child does not understand a concept, we teach. When a child does not write, we immediately try to teach the child. But when a child does not behave, do we teach, or do we react? Or do we scold? Do we punish? It's a thought process where we need to understand that behavior is as much a consequence of what is taught. And all the behaviorists from the past centuries have been reiterating that behavior, almost all of it, is learned. And it is learned from the environment, it is learned from the people around, it is learned by observing, it is learned by watching the consequences of what we did and how it panned out for us. So if we teach the child the right behavior, I don't think this problem is here to stay. I'm sure that collectively we all educators can, since we have flagged off an event today, we could look at more and more collectively thinking about solutions for this: student conferences, student events, maybe debates, small strategies in the classrooms. These things would help the child to understand and be very, very independent and autonomous in the way he or she decides how to speak. So, with that, I would like to end my keynote address. Thank you, Matthew, sir, for giving me this opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for starting off this on such a beautiful note of comparing. Actually, when we look at this era now, it is like before COVID and after COVID. The transformation of the students and education has increased tremendously if you compare what was 5 years back and now. And a lot of this is happening because of the digital addiction which took place during the COVID times. And from one problem leads to the other, and you so beautifully said, in fact, that whole thing can be summed up as Mahatma Gandhi said, no, thoughts becomes words, words becomes actions, actions become habits, and habits become character. So this is what is happening. They start by thinking about this social media influencers, their friends, they are exposed to all these words, and then what is happening, that is leading to the next step, that is action, and then the whole character is changing. So thank you, Archana ma'am, for summing up this or starting off this whole thing so beautifully. You have brought about, you have been associated with AIF since the beginning, and you have participated in so many sessions where you have given positive advice to educators. I'm sure you will be associated with us in the coming years and make this empathy in our classrooms a reality. Thank you for a beautiful start.
Thank you, sir.
I'm honored to invite Ma'am Roma Porcasta. She is the former principal of Navy School in Chanakyapuri and our AIF master trainer. And I am sure that she has a lot to say about this topic because she is also taking a lot of sessions, not only on empathy and creating kind classrooms, but on a lot of other things. And with her experience, I'm sure she also has a lot of things to say today. So it's over to you, Roma ma'am.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Matthews, for having me here. Before I start, I would really like to appreciate what AIEF is doing. I think you've provided a platform for so many educators, pan India and beyond, to learn, to grow, and relearn. And we relearn from each other. So, thank you so much, and best wishes to AIEF for further growth.
Thank you, ma'am.
The topic today is really, as Archana ma'am pointed out, it's something very close to all our hearts. And I think that's the reason why all of us are here. You know, as you very rightly said, there's a sense of helplessness when we hear. And I'll take it a step further and say, somehow kindness is, I don't understand why there is such a silence around it. Nobody wants to talk about it. You know, it's like it doesn't exist. Well, it's so much a part of our lives. Now, to understand, let's understand what is kindness. Now, to me, kindness would be, it's very simple. It's just the quality of being helpful, being considerate, being generous. And we can show it in many ways, helping another child to help to ride, helping someone to tie their shoelaces, giving someone a seat, etc., etc. There are endless examples. Somewhere we have forgotten this. And what I feel today is that kind classrooms can actually change the world. But what we need is the methodology of kindness, the pedagogy of kindness, the curriculum, whatever we do, let's keep that little bit of kindness in all of us. Empathy, sensitivity, respect, compassion. There's big words, but they're very simple to do. They all form what is called kindness. Creating kind classrooms in a culture of respect and compassion should actually not be difficult for us. And if we do this, I'm sure that some of our, things that we see in our classrooms, aggressive behavior, bullying, this very unequal power distribution that we have, we'll be able to handle these things more positively. Of course, it won't be utopia. We will still have these issues because after all, they're children that we're dealing with. But I'm sure we'll have more successful outcomes. And for this, we also need to address an attitude change in adults, in educators. And I really believe that, we must understand that there is a difference between being a kind educator and being a nice educator. Everybody is a nice educator. It's very nice to be popular, very nice to be in your comfort zone, to be able, oh, everybody likes me, my work is going well, I'm very comfortable, I'm very popular. But I think we can go beyond that. Why not be kind? And by kind here, I'm referring to creating small spaces where children can learn. The teaching learning process is noisy, it's messy, it's challenging, it's difficult. Sometimes there's a deadlock and we don't know what to do. That's where your kindness comes in. And to be a kind educator, it doesn't mean that you have to become a different person or adopt a new persona. No, you just have to, you know, uh, create these small spaces very consciously where children become more empathetic, more sensitive, show respect to each other. And as Archana ma'am pointed out, and I'm sure speakers after me would also talk about how you would be able to do it. You know, we always believe that, like I like to call it the pedagogy of kindness. They say that the pedagogy of kindness has got, involves maximum input with minimum output. We work so hard to be kind, but what happens in the end? But no, our research data is very different. It also says that if we follow the pedagogy of kindness, we ourselves would be more motivated. We'll have better work life balance. And you know, this entire unfortunate issue of bad language in the classroom, let's not call it bad language, incorrect language, abusive language, improper language, maybe a gesture, some nonverbal communication, some word, it can actually make or break a student's life. These things have such a bouncing effect, a ripple effect on the mental health, the classroom climate, socio emotional need, socio emotional learning, which is now back with such vengeance in our classrooms. And vengeance, I say, because now we really have to plan according to that. Somewhere down the line, I think we had lost that. So, moving on from there, I think when we look at positive and considerate language in our classrooms, the impact of our words, modeling kindness, integrating social learning, and this is all that is happening. But I think let's do it with a little more consciousness, because the basic classroom management technique, if you look at, if you use positive language, it will form the baseline of all communication, and that makes life so much simpler. I also wonder, how responsible are we for the language that we use? I heard it, I've used it. Is it right? So let's somewhere look at how responsible we are. We need to be clear, we need to be direct. We need to make our students aware of the kind of language they're using and the fact that they're responsible for what they say. And there are many ways of doing this. I will not go into details, but definitely they have to learn to take ownership of the language they use. They have to look at self awareness, have a growth mindset, understand that there are cultural differences. Our country is full of different dialects, different, when there's so much vernacular, there's so much. So be sensitive to all this. And of course, as I said earlier, model responsible behavior. Consider the context in which it is being said. Now, if we look at these things in our classrooms, we make our children aware and make them more responsible for what they are doing. Today, schools also have a very difficult task of navigating between the abusive language or the incorrect language being used in the classrooms and protecting freedom of speech. Everybody tells you the right to freedom of speech, it's a fundamental human right. I can express my thoughts, ideas, and opinions. There's no censorship. But with it, we have to understand that we have to be responsible to speak ethically. It does not tell us that we go around hurting people, creating hostile environments, abusing people. No. We have this whole thing called academic freedom. Students are encouraged to have academic freedom because they learn to explore, they learn to challenge ideas, they learn to, they learn to speak, they learn to argue, and they should argue, they should put forth their point of view, they should be aware that there are controversies and they can be addressed, but at the same time they cannot use derogatory language, spread harmful speech, offensive ideas. And I think most schools have their own policies towards this. And when these policies are made, we need to understand, make children aware that freedom of speech is there, but it is not absolute. Intentionally hurting somebody, being offensive, being discriminatory is not acceptable. Schools have their own consequences, definitely, which should be adhered to. I would also like to say that when we emphasize respectful communication, all schools have a policy for respectful communication. We must appreciate, applaud, publicly applaud, and appreciate students and adults who actually engage in respectful communication. And while we have severe consequences of using bad language, let's also look at applauding and appreciating those who speak well, who conduct themselves with respect. And that's one way to balance these things. Now, for example, a school policy might prohibit hate speech, bullying, harassment, but children are allowed to express their opinions and controversial issues in a respectful manner. Why not? So they understand where to speak and how to speak. We have to make them understand the importance of using inclusive language, avoiding stereotypes. I think these little things, if we make them self-aware for, and I know that all schools are conducting workshops and having all kinds of interactions, so we must continue with that. And I would like to end with one favorite saying of mine: while we foster academic freedom, let us promote the concept of kind classrooms, and let's have more kind educators. Thank you. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
my following panelists are going to give you lots of strategies on how to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ruma ma'am. And You brought out that point about how kindness is becoming a commodity that we are discussing. I mean, why should we even discuss kindness when it should be
Absolutely.
an inherent quality of every human being? So thank you
Absolutely.
so much, ma'am. And I'm sure the as we are going further with the panel discussions, we will be getting more and more points, and we will be having a Q&A session. I can see a lot of questions coming up in the chat, so we are not taking up these questions. So all those who have joined us live, kindly keep your questions towards the end, or you can post it also, and we will be taking your questions during the Q&A time. So thank you, Ruma ma'am. And our next speaker, I will invite ma'am Devanjana Sinha Roy, who is a PGT English in Don Bosco School, and she's also the coordinator for primary for English. So Devanjana ma'am, it's over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Greetings for the day. Esteemed panelists and viewers, thank you, Matthew, sir, for having us all here. As Archana ma'am rightly pointed out, it's a very pertinent topic today. And it is very important that we address this issue with empathy, with kindness, with understanding the emotions of the children. Students, basically, as we see that they try to use abusive language as a form of verbal abuse to hurt someone, as a means to assert dominance, specifically, to silence opposition, to look cool, to be accepted in the social scenario, because that's what is going on in the media we see around us today. Sometimes they witness that in the family as well. What we need to understand is the effect that it has on the victims of verbal abuse, and also the effect that it has on the ones who are using them. So it's a two-way affair. It's not limited to just one point of view. It's not that the ones who are going through this verbal abuse are the only ones who are facing the trauma. Of course, there is a lifelong trauma. They experience this kind of emotional distress, this emotional disparity thoughts, and also they feel that in their psychology that lingers a bad taste, throughout life, which results later probably in social isolation, social withdrawal. They get very scared to commit in a particular relationship. There are trust issues which are built, and which there are trust issues which are devastated because of verbal abuse. They feel like I can't trust anyone because at any point of time in my life I might be subjected to that very trauma once again. So they go through this continuous repulsive situation, and they are very scared to address that again and again. And there's a continuous anxiety that chases them throughout life, and they live throughout life with feelings of guilt, shame, and I would say utter despair. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. The real problem uh, lies with the ones who are using such derogatory language to appear cool, making it very habitual, to kind of vent out their frustration, be accepted. And also, as the former panelists talked about, that it is nowadays a way of being accepted and to be appeared cool. And also, I would say that this kind of verbal abuse occurs due to limitations in vocabulary. They don't read, they don't watch good cinema. So, therefore, there is a limitation in their vocabulary. And later on, this use of derogatory language kind of becomes an aggressive assertion, and it becomes a habit in their communication. Aggressive assertion becomes a habit in their communication. And also, if we delve a little deeper, we will see that behind this facade of superiority complex, there actually lies a lot of inferiority complex. Maybe the child is not being heard. Maybe the child is not getting the attention that he deserves for the right things he does. And therefore, he seeks that attention with the bad things, because bad things will always uh, you know bring out that attention of the educator immediately. So it is a psychology of riddance of guilt, shame, and they do it with a lot of name calling, with a lot of blaming, shaming. And what happens is we all have a conscience. Children, little children also have a conscience. So as they grow, as they blossom, as they develop, their psyche also develops, and their conscience also keeps developing and evolving. So therefore, when they realize that there's a continuous, repentance, there's a continuous remorse from which they cannot come out, and they feel that they're too superior to accept that, and they don't talk about it, so that lingers on continuously. So this kind of use of derogatory language also perpetuates a lot of stereotypes, discrimination, but these children do not understand that. And I think we as educators need to really work a lot more with empathy, with concern, in understanding their emotions, not only of the ones who are going through, uh, the onslaught of verbal abuse, but the ones who are using them for that matter. So both way we have to delve deeper, and as educators, we all can be basic level counselors, where we can at least identify the triggers, we can identify the symptoms, and then request maybe the school counselor to take up the issue and delve deeper into it. So it's absolutely our responsibility. All of us need to unite and work with both the parties, the ones using such abusive language and the ones who are the victims of such abusive language, and help understand their psychology, their emotional needs, and work towards a suitable solution.
Thank you, Devanda ma'am, for bringing in this aspect, which we rarely think. When a student is abusing another student, we always think only in one way, that we think about the victim, so-called victim. But here we brought about a beautiful point, that the person who is abusing also requires help, which many of us ignore. We always think that the person who is at the receiving end is always the victim, and we write anecdotal records, or suitable punishments are given to the person who is abusing. But the person who is abusing himself requires help, and if we don't address that issue at that point of time, it may get worse. And school is the best time when we can rectify this. And we read in the newspaper, often I have read things about that some students who are in college, or who are they are into some crime, and often my first question is, which school would they have studied in, and what is the kind of education they receive. So a lot of responsibility and onus is on the educators and schools today to build the foundation of a strong character. So thank you, Devanda ma'am, for bringing in these two aspects, and thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, sir.
So after Devanda ma'am, now I will invite Harpreet K. Chaudhary ma'am. Harpreet K. Chaudhary ma'am is a teacher in the French International School of Delhi. She is also a Google Educator leader of Ludhiana, and of course AIF Global Ambassador. So I invite Harpreet ma'am, with her immense knowledge of Google technology, and all these latest tech, which was taught to educators over a period of time, especially after COVID. I'm sure you are going to discuss those aspects, especially that how today technology is, whether it's a boon or a bane, that's a different thing. But how, in our context, how is digital influence on our students affecting their morality? Harpreet ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you to my fellow panelists for their insightful perspectives and the thought provoking discussions that we've started with. It's truly inspiring to hear such dedication towards fostering a respectful and inclusive learning environment that we are all sitting and talking about. Building upon these insightful, valuable insights, I would like to explore how we can further equip, like Matthew Sir said, our students with tools to navigate the digital world responsibly. I'd like to express before I begin my heartfelt gratitude to Matthew Sir and the All India Educators Forum for provoking this incredible and providing this incredible platform to discuss such a critical issue. It's an honor to be part of this conversation that shapes the future. Classroom is more just than four walls, as we were all talking about for last half an hour. We are saying it's a cradle of tomorrow's society. What we teach today, whether through textbooks or digital world, will shape our ethics, the empathy, the engagement of the future generations. And yet, as we witness an increasingly digital world, we also see a concerning rise in online aggression, cyberbullying, and misinformation. The question before us is really critical. How can schools instill media literacy and critical thinking to help students navigate the online landscape while upholding kindness and respect? Before we dive into the solutions, let's acknowledge the gravity of the problem. Social media and digital transactions are now inseparable part of students' life. We all understand that. Studies show that misinformation spreads 6 times faster than the truth, and online platforms can often become breeding grounds for abusive language. The anonymity of the internet emboldens individuals to act without accountability. And as educators, it's imperative that we aim and arm our students with the ability to think critically, analyze content objectively, engage them in online spaces with the same level of respect they would in face to face interactions. As part of the teaching fraternity and as part of an institution, how can schools promote media literacy and critical thinking is what we will address today. So, when I thought of this topic as a whole, how would we like to address it? There would be five points I would like to ponder on, and with you people, we would think on how we could embed media literacy into the curriculum. We must move beyond traditional literacy to media literacy. We all, I'm sure, agree to it. Schools should integrate digital citizenship and ethical online behavior into their syllabi. Teaching students how to fact check resources, recognize bias, and differentiate between credible and misleading information is essential in preventing the spread of harmful narratives that we all are getting. Secondly, I would like to encourage reflective online behavior. This is a really powerful strategy, which is the pause before you post approach. Schools should implement programs where students reflect on impact of their words before engaging online. For that, role-playing activities would really come in handy. Digital dilemmas discussions, real-life case studies that can foster the emotional intelligence and empathy in the online discourse. Thirdly, training educators and parents. We are a team. So, media literacy must not be just limited to students. Teachers and parents should receive the training on guiding children through digital spaces very responsibly. Schools can host workshops where educators learn about emerging online trends, the threats, the tools to help students evaluate important information. Again, it's a collaboration between schools and parents, which ensures students receive consistent messaging about online ethics both at school and at home. Next, we can look at the establishing of a zero tolerance policy for cyberbullying at school. Kindness must be non negotiable. Schools should implement such clear policies that define and address cyberbullying, ensuring students understand the repercussions of online abuse. The other side of the story also should be told to them. More importantly, there should be a support system in place where peer mediation groups should be there, anonymous reporting channels, and counseling service. They all would empower the victims and the educate perpetrators on consequences of their actions. Finally, telling them how positive digital footprints matter. This is one of the greatest lessons we can teach them that internet never forgets. Encouraging students to create a responsible and respectable digital presence where they use their online voices for advocacy, positivity, and constructive discussions. This can entirely shift the narrative from negativity to empowering them. Finally, I would sum up to this as creating a culture of kindness and respect in the classroom does not end at school gates. It extends to digital corridors where students interact daily by embedding media into their curriculum, literacy, fostering critical thinking, promoting responsible online behavior. We are not just educating children, but we are raising these informed, compassionate, and ethical digital citizenships. Let us be the architects of learning environment where kindness is not just encouraged but expected, where critical thinking is not just a skill but a shield about misinformation, and where respect is not just a classroom rule but a lifelong value. I understand the challenge is great, but the solution starts with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Harpreet ma'am. Very beautiful words. Something which we can cherish over a long time. I am sure that each word that you spoke had a lot of meaning and it was resonating with so many of us. And it is not just a classroom rule, as you said, but it is something which we feel deep in from within that it has to be there. So thank you, Harpreet ma'am, for your time, for sharing such valuable resource today. And
Thank you.
on this, yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. And on this note, I would like to invite our next speaker on our panel, Hemlata Suri ma'am, who is a CBSE and Manodarpan counselor. I'm sure she has, with her experience, dealt with hundreds and thousands of parents and students going through a lot of emotions. So I'm sure that while she's speaking today, she will enlighten us with so many case studies, especially which she has dealt with personally, which will be a learning for all of us. So Hemlata ma'am.
Good evening, Namaskar, and Jai Hind, everyone. It's indeed my pleasure and privilege to be here. Thank you, Matthew sir, for having me here. And this is really a pertinent topic which we have picked up, and nothing could have been better than taking this subject in today's world. Since I work on these two very important government helplines, and it's like my second nature to reach out to children, especially when it comes to they're facing very difficult situations emotionally as well as sometimes academically. So this is something which is really really needed. And today I'll be talking about basically inclusion, which stems from diversity in various natures. So when we talk of diversity, diversity just happens, and inclusion is something that has to happen through our attitude, through our actions, and through our behavior. So this is something very important when I talk of this when I talk of this subject. We will be discussing some very important and crucial strategies which can help you transform your classes, because inclusion is something which we all need to have it as an attitude in our behavior. So this is as a teachers and as an individual basically. So when we look at this country, we are full of diversity. The diverse nature uh, thrives us, thrives this nation. So everything gets gets basically translated into our classrooms. When we look at our classrooms, we have learners from various background, diverse background. They have various different learning styles. Some learners will grasp very quickly, so they become kind of aha experience for us. They become our delight. Some will take time, they'll struggle to learn. And definitely some of them will be very shy. They would not even like to answer and tell their name. They just want to pass as the basically passengers sitting in the train. But then some will be very outspoken. It will be difficult for us to handle them because of their chatter patter going on all the time in the class. They will be bursting out with the replies. So this is something which makes our classroom a happening place. So we as educator need to bring about leveling up behavior. We need to understand, acknowledge these things. So when I talk of inclusion in the class, we talk of very simple strategies which can become part of our behavior as educators, like using kind words. That is something my previous speakers also said. Kindness has to come out from the teachers who are the role models. So very important here, if some child is struggling, comes up to us, like a math teacher for example, or maybe some quiz is going on in the class, we don't say it's a wrong answer. We always say that this is something you have given. Let's try. Good try. You have tried well, child. I mean, these are very age old things, but we generally forget the basic things, the nature of our behavior. So very important. We can always mold our statement and say things. It's basically we are giving the some attitude. I mean, some point of view, but with a sugary coated stuff. So it is very very important that we must show and model that behavior. And then we also let children speak in the class. That is very important. Every voice that comes out, that is trying to speak out, matters. So we need to always, we have to value them. We have to ensure that we let each child speak in the class as and when possible. We can simply make a rule: today only 5 children will be allowed, maybe 10 children can, because if we allow them to speak, the class becomes a conference room, and then everyone is there to make the points. But then we have to have this rule in the class that we have to let them share their ideas and express their different perspectives, so that actually fosters a lot of respect and perspective taking. Because that is where we all have a problem. We have discords because we don't accept each other's perspective. As an adults also, many a times, these adult counseling cases where we are finding these argumentative attitude. I mean, I understand that adolescent or pre-adolescent years are marked by these uh, arguments, but then there is a difference between a healthy argument or a disruptive one. So definitely we have to let them speak. We have to celebrate the differences in the classes. Very, very important. We have to acknowledge various kind of cultures, the places they belong to, the food we eat. So definitely we can create a corner in the class which can become our diversity wall, or the wall with the difference. We can have these things. We can have such competitions where they are coming and talking about weekly basis about these things. So we have these things in our school, because that really helps to respect each other's perspective and fosters inclusion. Then comes empathy. Empathy is something which is very, very crucial in nowadays, and it is basically highest form of intellect. When we look at intelligence, it is one of the highest thing where you place it in human values. So very, very important, we must teach them empathy. So many of my co-panelists have mentioned about the word bullying. So bullying, when I look at this, there are children in our school everywhere, who face these things. This is very common thing that happens. Each one of us sitting here watching this program and on the panel have definitely faced bullying once. Once in a lifetime. For sure, we have faced such kind of unkind words, or maybe some exclusion, some kind of behavior. So definitely, we generally pick up all the three characters: the bully who's there, the victim, and the bystander. We just don't only address the victim. So definitely, we take three of them. We talk to them about these things. We have the role play. We sometimes make them buddy, because very, very important, but under watchful eyes of the class teacher or the counselor. So very, very important here that we teach them empathy, because it helps students to take the challenges and see the world with different perspective. Very, very important here. And when we talk of bullying, it's a zero tolerance policy has to be there. And the rules in the school, the expectations from children have to be same. We have to practice this equity and equitable behavior, which is very, very crucial here, because we have to have this culture of kindness, which basically addresses the negative language, the kind of unkind things, actions which we do in our classes, and teasing, sometimes exclusion to the core. I have many case studies where children were basically made to sit alone. They were eating alone at times. So definitely, we cannot simply just pick that student and tell them, please join this group, because groupism is something which is very, very common nowadays in our schools, and we will observe this as a class teacher most of the time. So we need to change seats. Sometimes we have to pair up. The buddy system is very, very important here, that we always use pair and support. So we always have this buddy system. Maybe some child who's very talkative can be paired up with a shy child, and many a times a child who's very good at some skill based thing can be paired up with the child who's not very skilled. So these things are always there, and we can keep rotating these buddies, and this really is very rewarding at times, because a peer educating another peer, the learning, I mean, takes place very fast. And then this happens, this improves their confidence, this builds friendships. Sometimes you'll find these children, they couldn't see each other, they would always be fighting, they would always be pulling each other down. Then you'll find such beautiful friendships built, because differences always, as we say, negative things, they attract each other. So this happens in real life as well. So it is very, very important that we have to have inclusion in real sense. It should not just become a physical presence in terms of posters and class diagrams or the bulletin board. It has to become the attitudinal change. It has to become emotional thing. We have to have acceptance, and we also have to make spaces for each student who should feel valued and respected. So let's choose our words and uplift each other. Let's have actions that include each other, and the mindset that embraces everyone, which is very, very crucial here, because when we do these things, we can create a better classroom. Matthew sir, I just want to make another point here, that we are the teachers, we are the soldiers of social defense. If you see ourselves, you have to consider yourself that only, because we cannot go to the borders and defend our borders. We can defend our students, we can defend their moral values, and we can defend this culture of equality and equity where we are kind to each other. So thank you so much for having me here, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Hemlata ma'am. I am sure you have a lot of other things to say, but at the same time, we are having a lot of panelists, and I'm sure at the end, when we have the Q&A, you will have something to contribute at that point of time as well. Thank you so much. So our next speaker will be Jaya ma'am. Jaya ma'am, who is a PGT Geography and Sociology from Convent of Jesus Mary, New Delhi. She is also a NCRT resource person. So I want to welcome her onto the next as the next speaker. Thank you, ma'am. Jaya ma'am.
Yes, thank you, sir. A very good evening to all the distinguished panelists and viewers. And thank you, sir, for having me here on this platform, though my first, but I connect with this topic very deeply with an experience of over 3 decades. And having been as a faculty in the esteemed institution of my school, I have been led by these golden words: be mothers to children. This was the first language of kindness that I'm sure all of us working out here will proudly claim. And the language of mother is the language of kindness. Words have the power. They can build you, they can break you, they can heal you, and they can hurt you. And here, before going deeper into this topic, my area of focus would be that how can schools create a culture of empathy, respect, and inclusivity that discourages the use of profane language. I belong to the Faculty of Social Sciences, having taught geography, sociology, and other social sciences for over 3 decades. And my interaction has been with both the genders and genders across different grades from class 8 to class 12. And I know as an educator or a teacher, it is one of the most challenging role we all have to play. And here I begin using the methodological tool of Max Weber of social understanding, which he puts it beautifully as empathetic understanding. And in simple terms, it is like feeling with. Empathy basically means that put yourself into the shoes before you judge someone and walk a distance of a mile, and you would know. The key areas I'll be breaking into will be over all these years what I have faced, been challenged, and also in my own right and might have tried to address these issues. As educators, we are role models to our children. As I said, words have the power. How we speak, how we conduct ourselves, our interpersonal relationships that exist in our schools also are imitated. School is a major source of rather the second most important agency of socialization next to the family. And it is here that the children learn the practices of secondary socialization that goes or continues over a long period of their lifetime. And it is the lesson that we all teach our dear fellow educators as teachers in the schools. We too are bound by code of conducts, and I'm glad that this conduct is required. We all need to present ourselves as role models to our children. I also would like to share one example out here that recall our experiences from kindergarten to probably nursery or play school to the class 12, how children imitate while learning the nuances or skills of debates, recitation, painting, public speaking, they imitate you. And we immediately learn that we have created that magic or impact. Schools here have a major role to play, be role models to our children, as children are great imitators. While doing so, we must also ensure that we are reinstating positive behavior. We are reinforcing positive behavior. How can we motivate the children to use good language? And this good language can be verbal as well as non-verbal. And I'm sure a number of distinguished panelists who belong to the different faculties would share their uh, views about it. Uh, but here I would also say that schools can create those kind of classes, especially value education classes, moral sciences, that during which we interact with our children, encourage children to practice good usage of language, words that are impactful, and that can happen only when we ourselves are leading them to be imitated, and lead the children by speaking the language which is highlighting the value of empathy, acceptance, or accommodating these diverse children. Children coming from different backgrounds are to be accepted in a classroom situation, because we all come back from a background of a pluralistic identities, and to assimilate and accommodate such vast diverse children in a class is definitely a challenge. And this can be broken only when we motivate them to use the language that is the language of kindness. Schools can install some kinds of rewards and awards, right? Like a beautiful share is that have we always acknowledge and honor the achievers, right? But acknowledge them for their positive behavior by rewarding them probably rewards like on being the most compassionate student. And this helps them to set an example to be imitated, and there'll be many. One starts and the others follow. This is another very important area where schools often overlook. But if we also reward them for their positive language, give them opportunities where they are recognized, do not punish them for the language that they are using, but give them opportunity to ponder, why is this word good or bad? And this positive communication can also be addressed when schools are motivating the children to conduct assemblies where acts of kindness or empathetic understanding is given a lot of value. Teach them the importance of respectful communication, not just that you are asking the children to follow that, but it has to be, as we said, as educators we all have to be the role model. Then practices like celebrating community service week, Thanksgiving time, or the other times where the children are engaging to communicate with children who are underprivileged. And this goes on to create a lot of sensitivity. And I'm sure many of the schools are engaging in these kind of practical solutions. As Roma ma'am very beautifully put it, that nobody remembers the definition of kindness. What is kindness? And this kind of sharing and caring is something that instills and fosters the empathetic understanding, creating some conducive environment where the children are happy. This is something that we need to ensure. Avoiding derogatory remarks, exhibit immense patience while listening to children who have some kinds of conflicts, whether they are socio-economic or any other cultural. This would go in a long way to bring and create happy classrooms. Inclusivity can also be a part of our curriculum. Celebrate diverse cultural festivals where this kind of ethnocentric understanding is broken down, where children are able to assimilate, and share and celebrate with the same zest and zeal the festivities, even though they may not understand. Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat is one such example, and we have seen beautiful responses how India is getting united. And this is one of the very important method. Projects can be given or undertaken under sociology or other faculties alike. So this is some of the understanding that we as an educators have to develop in our students. I once again thank all my fellow panelists and Matthew sir for giving me this opportunity. I rest my case.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaya ma'am, for bringing in so many aspects, especially the inclusivity part. And with the NEP coming up with so many strategies and so many protocols of creating inclusive classrooms. Thank you, Jaya ma'am. And now, without wasting much more time, I'm moving on to our next speaker. That is Mansi Datta ma'am, who is the coordinator of the Social Science Department in Don Bosco and also a resource person. Mansi ma'am, it's over to you. Mansi ma'am? Hello? Monica ma'am, can you hear me? Yeah, you can
Yes,
unmute
sir. Yes,
yourself.
sir. I can
Good
hear
Yeah,
evening.
you.
I think Mansi ma'am has lost her connection. We'll get her back.
Okay. She's
Okay,
back.
okay. Yeah, I think, yes. Mansi ma'am, can you hear me?
Good evening. Yes. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Yes. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Matthew, sir, and AIF platform for giving the opportunity to speak on fostering kindness in educational spaces. Um, as Swami Vivekananda said, and I will like to quote, uh, man, he says, man is a combination of morality, ability, and nobility, which we as educators need to develop and bring out through education and training. Now, today we are discussing about kindness, creating kindness in classroom. Why kind classroom? How kind classroom matters? A kind, compassionate, empathetic, positive environment makes an impact on every living being. But have we ever thought, I mean, what is the reason? I mean, why are we discussing this topic today? Unfortunately, often reprimanded for using swear words or abuse, are now used as colloquial slangs to express anger, aggression, arrogance, um, and we experience that. even in the I mean in even in commonly in the school as well. Now, and more interestingly, these words are used casually without intent. Now, what are the reasons? What are the reasons that why children, what is the reason behind this defined behavior and the increasing use of harsh language among students? I would like to focus on when we speak, we express our emotions. Emotions need words to be expressed. So, like, and mostly what happens when we are negative thoughts or emotions play a very important role in using the negative words. So we need to develop very healthy emotional and social uh, mindset among our children, among our students, so that they are emotionally strong. They don't negative thoughts or negative emotions doesn't embrace them, and they don't speak wrong words. Not only that, as we all know, I mean, it's the stressful conflict environment from where children come, is one reason where also a reason for, you know, which normalizes the use of harsh words. Their friend circle or peer group, where they think they would they think that they would share their emotions, sometimes to fit or for the acceptance there, they just use the harsh words or the swear words. And because swear words are perceived as sign of smartness, as sign of confidence. And I would also like to share, like Javed Akhtar, in our the famous poet and lyricist, once he said, because we are talking about kindness, fostering kindness, and the reasons why we need to foster and why the use of harsh language is among children now, common nowadays in children. So I would like to just share. Javed Akhtar, in one of his interview, said that these like people in some parts of India, they use chili in the food to make it more spicy and tasty. And these swear words, abusive words, chili, he said, is the chili of language by which they try to make their language more spicy or try to seek attention. So he says, if our expressions, our thoughts are clear, we are clear about the language, we know the language, and we put little wittiness in it, then we don't need these words. We don't need the spice. We don't need these words to seek attention. So why don't we take it away? Why do we need the spice to seek attention or to be popular? Also, not only that, so the children, especially nowadays, for acceptance, sometimes for to fit in their peer group, they are bound to use, or they are using the harsh language. They use the harsh language. As one of our I was reading the comments, Sri Priya ma'am has written, nowadays we have single child, there is no sibling at home, so children don't have anyone to share, to care, to fight, or to take out the little anxiety and anger among themselves. They are, it is all there within them. And so when they feel frustrated, when they feel that parents are not listening to them, and they are not being accepted sometime in the peer group, ultimately what happens? The emotional outbursts take place, and it normalizes the use of harsh words. Also, I will emphasize on the academic demands, increasing academic demands, and the high expectation of parents. I'm taking very general reasons why it is happening. uh, Academic demands, for example, activities, portfolios, and over that, submission of notebooks, completion of practical notebooks. We, as educators, we take one subject. We, but the child, but the student is dealing with 5, 6 subjects. And then all the activities, all the work, all the practical, everything, the child has to do himself or herself. Over that, high expectation of parents, the child gets overburdened, the child gets frustrated, and ultimately it he I mean ultimately gives up, ultimately starts disrespecting parents, starts absenting himself, starts taking the refuse, and then mingles up more with the friends, there he uses the words, or there he uses these abusive words for them. So this is another reason. And then, as the esteemed panelists already discussed about social media definitely is a reason. And also the unfiltered content, the films, music, in the OTT platforms. And even recently, Ranveer Alhabadia, we all know about him, that how he was being in a prime discussion for his derogatory comments. So these, and that was not the first case. The stand-up comedians, to get the popularity or to make seek attention, they are doing that in the reality shows. And there is no restriction of age, there is no restriction, there is no limitation. Everyone is watching. The children of people of any age. I mean, even children are listening to these words, and they're taking it seriously. As ma'am said, Harpreet ma'am talked about anonymity online, then online conversations. Everywhere we see that these discussions are there. Even the I was talking about stand-up comedians, Veer Das, Faruqi, they were all accused for these derogatory comments, their use of abusive words in the reality shows. So all these children are listening. They are into the reels, YouTube shorts, and they see all these, they hear, and then they try to imitate. So the Sadhguru says that these words, the swear words, which are very general in language. He says some are vulgar, some had certain intentions, some refers to the background, and some are just poking fun to the child. But largely, the words, the swear words that we pick up in English language, or we find in English language, are from the West, or the intermixing of culture. For example, he quotes the word, he says that some few words are there which are commonly used for good and bad emotions, good and bad expression. And what do we, or when we hear them speak, we try to imitate those words. And knowingly and unknowingly, we use them. We do not know exactly we should use them or not. And so this is what is happening. So these are the reasons why the use of abusive words, harsh language among students has grown, has increased so much, and for which we are discussing that how to stop it, how to stop that, how to restrict, how to make them understand that they need to take pain, they need to understand first, they need to know what sort of a language is used, what sort of a language is used to bring kindness in the classroom. And we educators, I think we have to take the initiative, we have to step in, we have to create a learning space where students should feel included, respected, and motivated to succeed, because we do not know exactly from where they from what background they are coming, what problem they are facing, as I discussed some of them. And so by that we will be able to improve their well-being, will be able to enhance their learning capability, will be able to build relationship not only between parent and the student, between the teacher and the student, among them. The and that will be very strong. At least they won't feel isolated. It will promote their emotional and social, and also automatically it will reduce the behavior issues. With that, I would like to end. Thank you, sir. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you so much, Mansi ma'am, for bringing in out about so many points which are very relevant to today's educators and the classroom that we are handling. And we have a lot of questions, in fact, but since we are running out of time, I will request all the panel members, those who are finished speaking, to go through the chat and try to answer those questions, because we were planning for a Q&A, but since we are exceeding the time limit and there are a few speakers still left, so we will be taking the questions through the live chat only now. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mansi ma'am, for that. And now I will invite Monica ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Monica, thank you, ma'am. And now I am inviting Monica Agarwal, ma'am, who is actually a teacher in Don Bosco School too. And she is the moral science coordinator. And so her words are very, very important today. And she is doing a fantastic job in the school as well. And also, before she actually joined the panel discussion, now you would have seen that she was already there on the YouTube giving us comments and motivation. And it is only not because she's participating today. In every AIF session, I have seen Monica ma'am participating very actively, encouraging all the speakers. So thank you, Monica ma'am, for always being a great support and always participating, whether you are in the panel or not in the panel, always supporting. Thank you.
And good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be here again today with on this esteemed platform of AIEF. And thank you, Matthew, sir, for creating this opportunity to be a panelist for this wonderful topic for today. The use of abusive language has affected every school, and how students communicate with one another is a grave concern for all of us. We have all heard students using inappropriate language, often without realizing its impact. As educators today, we don't just teach subjects, we shape minds and have the power to create an environment where words are used to uplift, encourage, and inspire rather than hurt and divide. As educators, our role extends beyond textbooks and exams. Schools are places where values, discipline, and character are shaped. Imagine a student preparing for a speech competition, standing confidently before an audience. But the moment they start talking, their words lack respect and grace. Do you think that their message would be taken seriously? No. A student who habitually uses disrespectful language may struggle to gain trust of others. Language students use today will influence their interpersonal relationships, careers, and places in society tomorrow. When we teach students to speak with respect, we are preparing them for success in real world. First and foremost, personal conversations and counseling is the need of the hour. When we find students using such words, we should identify the root cause or of such behavior and guide students towards self-reflection. When we engage school counselors, teachers, and even parents to support their journey towards positive expression, while seeking support from parents to mitigate this issue, we should be mindful of the fact that parents want to feel proud of their words and not embarrassed. So we should have empathetic conversations with them as we carefully and patiently counsel them to enable a positive change in their ward. Hearing, supporting, and comforting words, every parent would walk a mile extra to help their children become a better version of themselves. Words do have power. Instead of reprimanding or punishing bad language, we need to guide students toward better communication habits. Here is how we can create a positive change. We need a constructive approach that helps them understand the impact of their words. I would like to suggest a multi pronged approach to deal with this. First of all, we can conduct awareness programs. When we teach students to speak with respect, we are preparing them for success in future, wherein we organize discussions and workshops on the power of words to help students see how speech influences their identity and relationships. We should also encourage the pause and think rule. Before speaking the unkind words, students should ask themselves, would I say this to my teachers? Would I feel the same if someone said this to me? Help them understand that respectful language earns respect from others. Next, we can cite real life examples of famous personalities who achieved greatness through their words, which were liked by all. If we need, we can share the success stories of speeches given by great leaders. For example, Mahatma Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Dr. Nelson Mandela, to highlight the importance of words. We may also assign the students to research, learn, and present speeches of great leaders, poets, thinkers, as well as philosophers who inspired the millions just because they had good words to share. This is something we can integrate with teaching all subjects in school. For example, if we are taking English literature, we can discuss how characters' words influenced their fate. If we are taking a history chapter, then we can respectfully ask the students to hear very carefully the speeches of the great leaders and how the mass movements began. Taking moral science or value education classes, we can have students to read and reflect books that promote kindness and ethical communication. In classroom, there is another way. Have a role play being done to discipline them with the purpose. We can have students act out different scenarios. They can take up a role as a teacher or as a parent or a friend and observe how words change reactions. Help the students to use phrases such as wonderful effort, you have the talent, you are amazing, you are a blessing, and the impact will be wonderful. Such kind words help them to resolve individual differences and bring in positive reinforcement, and the sense of belonging will strengthen in the school. A word of praise whispered in the ear will always remain forever with the child, and he or she will have the confidence to face the most adverse situation with ease and a smile without getting instigated. Punitive actions like temporary suspension from extracurricular activities like sports, games, or school events can serve as a deterrent or negative reinforcement. On the contrary, I would like to suggest that we can engage these children in community service programs for a more positive behavioral change. A revolution in school culture starts with small, consistent efforts. By guiding our students towards respectful language and behavior today, we prepare them for a future where they can thrive as responsible, compassionate individuals. If we work together, if we pledge, we can definitely change the scenario and we can build a school culture where words become a tool for kindness, leadership, compassion, and success. So let us pledge and make every word count. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Monica ma'am, for expressing a lot of sentiments which echo in the educator's mind about how to deal with children who use abusive language. And very rightly, as the panelists are bringing out, there is so much of outside influence that we don't know how to monitor, where to monitor, and what are the appropriate steps to be taken. So thank you for bringing in very valuable points in the discussion. And we continue now our discussion further. And I invite Dr. Preeti Fotela ma'am as the next speaker. Dr. Preeti ma'am is an ISTM certified resource person, an emotional intelligence expert. She wears many, many caps and hats, which if I start reading out, it will be half an hour. So, Preeti ma'am, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, as you are a very kind person and this topic is so close to you and you practice this, and we see the results of this in your students, in your colleagues, and whichever sessions that you have conducted in the previous years. So we welcome Dr. Preeti Fotela ma'am. It's over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. First of all, greetings to all the panelists and all the audience out there. Thank you so much, Matthew, sir, for giving us the platform to discuss the very crucial topic today. And what I am going to discuss today, all the esteemed panelists have already discussed about, but putting little more light on the underlying reasons. What are the reasons that the children are behaving in such a manner? I read it somewhere. Beneath every behavior lies a feeling. So, as an emotional intelligence expert, also, I feel that yes, we say, and we it's not only why we are just saying, we hear also. Yes, the childrens are using derogatory language, but what is the feeling behind it? Why did they use it? It's very important for us to know. As educators, as parents, it becomes our duty to help them. Just giving some judgment, just announcing some punishment or something is not the only thing that we must do or we have to do. We must find the underlying causes. And when we are aware of those causes, the exposure to the social media. When the exposure to the social media, what is right, what is wrong, it is our duty to tell them that what has to be taken. There is so much of information everywhere. There is, we call it as the load of information. There is overload of information, and what has to be consumed and what not has to be consumed, it becomes our prime duty to tell our students. Because it's not that we say there are parental guidance there, and we can implement those particular tools what the children should see, but it is not always that the parents are there. So it becomes our duty to explain the child also, because always in their life there'll be two ways, the right and the wrong. Which way the child has to go, he has to decide himself. And for that, we have to educate him, counsel him, talk to him. That is very important. So, when we are talking about underlying causes, we are first talking about the social media. Then we are talking about the lack of emotional intelligence. the child is so much at times frustrated that he takes to the harsh language as the outburst. So we must we must guide the child how he has to express his emotions. That is so very important for all of us to know all that. And while we are addressing these situations, we the parents and educators can come together. The school can hold workshops, seminars for the parents, wherein the parents are also educated and told about how to go about things. At times, parents are also busy and they do not understand how to tackle the situation. So, when the sessions are being conducted by the experts, the parents too get a hand holding. And we have parent teachers associations in schools. And when the parents and teachers get together, they make a profound difference in child's life. And at times we see, because of peer pressure also, as one of the panelists also said, and I really agree that yes, they want to show that I'm the coolest person, I can use this language. So again and again, I am stressing on the right and the wrong has to be told to the child. The child's conscious has to be there, that yes, listen to your inner voice, don't let it die. Listen what is correct, what is right, and what has to be done, and pursue that path. So it is, we say that it's always we are just speaking and nobody's listening. Out of those in your class, or if of 30 children, if the message has gone to at least one also, your work is done. So I request all the teachers, the counselors, the parents, do not leave your counseling. Counsel the child every day. It stays there. Maybe you do not see the result instantly, but the message has sent across. It is there at the back of the mind of the child. And he does ponder, he does think about it. Yes, what action should be taken and how do we have to go. And while we are addressing these situations, we in the schools we have newsletters, magazines, so there we can give our uh, articles, some useful tips each and every day. So the parent community and the teachers, when they come together, they are going to make a difference in the child's life for sure. And for with this, I'll say to be an effective, to take the effective decisions for our children is our prime duty. And we must understand how can we take it across to our children that yes, we are not just being judgmental, we are not being unkind towards them, understanding their feeling behind the behavior that they are putting across. Why is it that the child is behaving in such a manner? Must think about it and must guide your child. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti ma'am. And so beautifully you express the peer pressure part. Because if I am not using a certain kind of language, then I am not part of the, there is a friendship circle. And to be cool, you need to start using that language. Otherwise, you are not, you are not included in a particular group. So that is one aspect that we have to think about. How can we resolve such issues? And secondly, you brought about a very beautiful point about teachers being counselors. So
Absolutely.
many of us have the tendency, okay, let's send them to the counselor. My job is to teach maths or English or science. So why should I deal with all this? I'm not trained enough. So teachers as counselors is also very important. I think basic counseling techniques we all need to learn, and we are actually the first point of contact for our children in our class. So thank you, Preeti ma'am, for bringing in these useful tips. I'm sure many of us will incorporate all that. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
sir.
much. And next speaker is Ms. Reema Joseph, who is TGT Science from Don Bosco School and also the Innovation Ambassador. So we are very eager to listen to you.
A very good evening to all of you, my esteemed panelists, and all the viewers. So, here I'm here to talk about some of the strategies which can be employed to help students develop healthy communication skills. So I think when we talk of communication skills, I think in today's time, communication skill has become more of an art. It's an art or the ability to convey thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions in a manner as appropriate as possible. So, when we think of strategies which can be adopted for effective communication, I think first and foremost, what comes to my mind is to give enough and more opportunities to our children. I think children usually feel hesitant, especially when they have a large audience in front of them. They feel hesitant to go up onto the stage when they have about 500 to thousands to peers, their friends standing in front of them. They feel hesitant to go up and share their thoughts and ideas. Stage fear, like most of us are aware of. So I think in their little comfort zones in the classrooms where they have a limited number of 45, 50, or 40 to 45 students, we should give opportunities to our students where they can stand, where they can come up on the platform, stand and express their thoughts and ideas. So, one little example is an event which we hold in our school during the Science Week, which is referred to as Picturesque, wherein we give about three images to each student: one physics, one chemistry, one bio. And the students have the liberty to pick a picture of their choice, identify the scientific concept behind the image, and speak about the image for about just a minute. So it's a very small activity, a very small opportunity that we are giving to the students. But then it really gives a lot of confidence to the child, because he's standing up on the stage and standing up in the front of the classroom while all his friends are seated, and he's speaking for just a minute maybe. So I think as teachers, as educators, irrespective of whatever subject we are teaching, we need to give little opportunities to our children where they can come up and they can communicate. So they also know how to formally communicate in a classroom setting. It's not, of course, informally they can all communicate, but formally how they can communicate in a classroom. Secondly, and I feel something that is most important, is active listening. I think when we talk of communication, while 50% of communication is the communicator, how he communicates, whether verbally or non verbally, the other half of communication is to do with active listening. And how things are in today's times is that people do not like to listen a lot. They would like to speak, they would like to put forward their opinions, but they're not good listeners. So while CBSE is also, in the form of ASL, we have for class 11 and 12, wherein they are giving opportunities, where they are making it mandatory for students to have their listening skills activated. At our own little levels, even we should have little activities wherein we inculcate the habit of listening among our students. So that I feel is crucial. That is the second strategy I feel. Thirdly, I feel utilizing another quality which I feel that as teachers and educators we must inculcate in our students is the utilization of all the modes of communication, the verbal as well as the non-verbal modes of communication, and learn to balance the both of them. So verbal modes of communication is words, whether it's written or it's oral. Non-verbal modes of communication is your gesture, your tone of speech, your posture, your body language. So children should also know how to non-verbally communicate and put across the message in the way they intend to. So that balance has to be there. And lastly, conflict resolution, the second part that I would like to talk about. I feel conflicts is part and parcel of student life. I think me, especially being having taught in a boys' school for about a decade now, I think conflicts is one form of drama which I've started seeing right from day one of my teaching in Don Bosco School till date. So I think conflict resolution, as teachers, we do this on a day-to-day basis. But again, I would like to insist on the fact that as teachers and educators, we must empower or facilitate our students to be able to resolve the conflicts on their own, at their own little levels. And having said that, I think if our communication is strong, if the children are equipped with good communication skills, conflict resolution also will happen on its own. They will be able to resolve conflicts also in a way wherein teachers will only have to be playing the role of facilitators and don't have to be actively involved in conflict resolution. So right from identifying the problem, to brainstorming solutions, to choosing a solution and making a plan. Sometimes, we could probably involve the entire classroom in trying to brainstorm solutions in case of a conflict which has taken place between two students. So choosing the solution, making the plan, and eventually evaluating the outcome. I think, as teachers, we should facilitate our students should be to be able to uh, play this part of conflict resolution also. So that's about it.
Thank you so much, Rima, ma'am, because that conflict resolution is indeed a very important topic that you brought about. And I'm sure that this we can work upon this and give opportunities for students to learn how to resolve issues also, and how to, as an educator, how do we step into those situations. Many times we try to resolve things, but it turns into something worse. So it is very important aspect that you have brought about. And I know that with young teachers like you who are coming up to play active role, our students are in safe hands. So thank you so much for joining in today. And for our next, as a next panelist, I would like to invite Reena ma'am. Reena ma'am is here. Yes. Ma'am, you're.
Thank you. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Reena ma'am is the founder of TELS, that is Beyond Academics. And she interacts with a lot of parents and students through her foundation. And I'm sure she is going to bring about those aspects of how parents need to deal with this issue. So far, we've had educators talking about how to deal with students. Now, Reena ma'am is, I would request Reena ma'am to speak about how the parents can deal with such situations when they see their children using abusive language, derogatory remarks, and so on. Thank you for joining, ma'am. It's over to you. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving the opportunity. And I would say I have learned a lot from all my these fellow panelists, and almost all of the points have been spoken here. I am not left with anything, but still, yes, as ma'am has said that you know children, our words create our world. And where are these words coming from? No child was born with a language, but every child is born with feelings. You just give a tight hug to a child and see his beautiful smile, and the happiness level increases. And then give an angry look without uttering a single word. You will see his frown face. Even a newborn can feel the language that is unspoken, and we give them words. On the contrary, action speaks louder than words. Our actions are our word, and our words are not in agreement to each other. We teach them not to use harsh words to others. But in families, on roads, people are using harsh words and children are listening. Even parents use lazy, stubborn, careless, liar, aggressive. Aren't these abusive words? We often use for our children. And as the child grows, vocabulary increases from various sources, various platforms. In my opinion, and as per my experience, children are not the culprits. They are the victims, victims of the society, victims of this environment where people are using such slangs openly and they are learning and using them. They don't even know that they can impact how much in their lives. These are not only going to take their peace of mind, in fact, later in life, they can have physical diseases. We can teach our children in class, our students, but how many of them are strong enough so they do not use such language in society? Hardly a few. When I asked my students, they say, ma'am, when everyone is using and we are not using, they tease us because out of 10, 9 are using. They find this is cool. Some children share that they only use when they are angry or they do not get space to confide or express their feelings. They want to heard. They want to be heard, not living in the herd. They said, we feel everywhere people are judging us, whether in school or at home, whether they are neighbors or the relatives, whether they are teachers or the educators. They know they should respect their elders, so they don't use in front of their elders. And when they use in their peer group, they get space, they get friends, and these words are helping them to release their anger, their frustration without harming anyone physically. No, these harsh words not only harm their mental peace, they will harm them physically. Imagine we have a wound here on the hand. Definitely we'll put something, an ointment or bandage, but the harm, the wound which is in the brain is not visible to anyone. So we ignore it, whether it is a child, parent, teacher, or the society. So here I would like to ask you, before we respect others, shouldn't we respect ourselves? And we should teach our children, respect yourself first, then give, because we cannot give anything which we don't have. We cannot pour anything from an empty glass. We ask them to be kind to others. What about them? We ask them, don't bully others. But what should they do when they are getting bullied? Nobody is teaching them. So this is the major thing. We have to educate. We can't even stop them going out. We can create a goody environment in the school, very positive environment at home. But can we stop them going out? They are going to colleges, they are going to hostels, they are going to workspace. Is everybody is positive? No. How will they deal that situation? This is very important. So we need to communicate, not complicate. We have to treat them as an individual, not only a child. Of course, the child cannot grow to our level and talk to us like a grown-up, but we can go to the child's level. We have faced all those things. Here, I would like to share my story. Once I was playing with my cousins. I was 10 years old at that time. And one of my elder cousin used some harsh words for me. He is my elder. I have to respect him. But I was angry. I was hurt. I could not do anything. I just said, I don't want to play with you, and started crying, went to another room. For around 2 hours, I was crying, and crying. My another cousin came to my room. She said, they least bother. Only you are sitting alone. Nobody will come to console you. So ignore it and come back and play with us. A 10 years old didn't have any choice left. Although I didn't want to accept that bad behavior, I had to. Do you think I have forgotten that behavior till now? If yes, I would not be sharing it with you today. So we have to create the safe environment, not only in school, not only at home, everywhere. And the charity begins at home. We teachers and parents have to join hands. Children are with us only for a few hours, but they are all the time with parents. And as we are talking about, we have to make them responsible enough, and towards their words they are using. Of course, they have the freedom of choice, freedom of words, freedom of using the words whatever they want to use. But with freedom, I must say, responsibility also comes in. So we have to teach them, and we have to join hands in schools. Of course, children's self-respect is very important. We have to be empathetic. All these words, all these activities have been shared in previous talks, so I would not take much time for that. Of course, I want in every school public speaking platform is a must, where children can express their thoughts. If we will engage them in some productive activities, I think we can shift their energy from negative to positive. That is also a one way of changing the environment. Other than this, student mentoring programs. Children should have a mentor in school, and parents should stay connected with teachers. Respect is mutual, it is earned, and home should be a safe place. We should make children emotionally strong and intelligent. And after having this conversation, I think we can do it. One generation of deeply loving and respectful parents, teachers, and society would change the brain of the next generation, and with that, the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reena ma'am, for those wonderful words, especially the line that I really liked in the whole what you shared. So many things were there, but let's communicate, let's not complicate. So that is very meaningful, because sometimes we try to confuse people. Instead, when we are not able to convince some people, we try to confuse them. That's a general trend that is going on. And then what happens? The child doesn't know, because we don't speak in the same language probably. And then what happens? There is a lot of confusion. The child is not able to understand who is their mentor. So as you
Yes.
rightly said, that we should have these mentorship programs in schools and outside schools or whatever, because these people, if you ask in now who is your idol or what do you want to become, hardly anybody will go for teaching, or their teachers are no longer their idols. So that is what is a scenario which is changing over the past many years that I have seen, is that they are looking outside for instant gratification, no, because of these social media. They don't want to work hard for building their character or doing courses, whatever it is. So thank you for bringing that. Let's start communicating with our students in a better way, so that we are able to understand them in a better way, and we are able to do justice to whatever roles that we are assigned in our own respective schools as educators. Thank you so much, Reena ma'am. And
Thank you so
with
much, ma'am.
this, I will ask our next speaker, Stuti Sarpal ma'am, to start the session. She's a PGT English in NKPBS Rohini, and I'm sure she has a lot of things to say about this. And she's waiting patiently for now. The session is almost going to be 2 hours, and after that, we have three more speakers. So I really love the energy of our panelists, as well as the participants, who are, some of them are commenting right from 5:30, and they're still there. Thank you so much for continuously supporting us. Stuti ma'am, it's over to you.
Greetings for the day, erudite panelists. Gratitude, Matthew sir. And all the expressive viewers, I've been seeing our chat box being bombarded with so many messages. I would like to begin by talking about two bizarre things. So many things have already been told over here. I will carry forward what Reena ma'am and Reema ma'am have told. But before that, I want to share two bizarre episodes which happened with me. One, I don't know how many of us have been looking into the classrooms of students of as young as classes 4 and 5, and I was shocked. They play a game these days. Who will make a person cry? Who will make a person cry? They spot a person, a child obviously, and they start using all type of language, body shaming, abusive language. This is a very common game in classrooms. And another episode incident which happened with me personally, say a few weeks ago, I was walking in the corridor and a girl came up to me and she suddenly, all of a sudden, she started telling me, "Ma'am, why don't you take up a session on self harm?" And I was shocked. Self harm, that's a big term. But students these days are indulging in self harm because of all the toxic behavior that they are being subjected to in their classrooms by their classmates. And if I start talking about what I did after listening to this, it would take another session, but these are the things that are happening in our own schools, in our own classrooms, and we need to actually look out at the stress signs and how these children are actually looking out for help from people around them, whether they are their teachers, the counselors, their peers. And I want to actually talk about the effect of these abusive words by quoting a few lines of Hindi. ये जो अपशब्द हैं, ये एक भयंकर चिंगारी हैं जो कानों में नहीं मन में आग लगाते हैं। कुछ बच्चे इसमें झुलस कर रह जाते हैं और कुछ बच्चे इन्हीं से तबाही मचाते हैं। So actually, those who cannot voice out, you will see them showing symptoms of isolation, excessive or reduced appetite, change in sleep pattern, reluctance to go to school. And there will be children who will become so violent, and we'll have to figure out what's gone wrong with them. And you'll come to know that, oh my God, they were students who had been subjected to some kind of, abusive language, some kind of rude words which hurt them so badly that they did not have anything to do but to resort to violent ways, probably becoming so aggressive in their lives. These children need to be reached. Reach out, not preached. They want us to understand them. A word, a phrase like I understand you, I can almost feel the pain that you are going through is much more embalming than saying ignore and move on. This is something which is going to happen with you. This is part and parcel of life. Aisa to hota hi rahega. No, this will not work. These children need somebody, as ma'am previously told, somebody to hear them patiently, somebody who would not judge them, a place where they can speak their hearts out. And most importantly, what we usually do in these situations is that we, as educators, as parents, try to always react to what these children come and tell us. We will never try to wait and respond to such situations. Then the situation will be much in control if we respond to such incidents which come to our notice. Another very important point which I want to bring to the notice of everybody is that we should create an environment where taking professional help, counseling, should not be a taboo. Therapy will help in such situations where children are victimized. So it should not be a taboo for anyone. When mental health and well-being are now very much, after NEP 2020 coming in, they are very much, the talk of every school, every classroom now. And very important, as a parent, as a teacher, as a student, as a counselor, if at all we want to say anything, we should say in a voice that heals. This is how I want to rest my case here and be a healing voice for every child who comes in contact with me. And I would request every educator to be the healing voice.
Thank you so much, Stuti ma'am. Let's be the healing voice. And as the new session is about to start, that's why I wanted this session before the new session starts, because we need some sort of energy when we go into our classrooms. Every time we think about doing things, but it never translates into action because we are so busy in our own lives. So we need a boost. So thank you, Stuti ma'am, and especially for bringing us, making us aware of, games like this. Sometimes by the time we realize, we get to know it very late sometimes. So there are games like this, earlier that Blue Whale was there when they used to give challenges and people used to, and I am sure there are so many games which we are not aware, but children are doing that. And to go into that mode requires a lot of understanding. We also need to be aware of these digital nuances and these so-called, devilish kind of games that is going on. And this is something which is sad. And if we come to know about all this late, maybe it's too late to bring them back into the main fold. So thank you, Suti ma'am, for sharing beautiful insights. And for all this, I think value education, which many schools have been neglecting over a period of, because they thought that this is not important. Let's teach math, science, English. Those are important. And that's why I think, again, it's time to rethink about how much importance we give to value education, moral science classes, and of course, leading by example. We ourselves need to be examples of all this. Thank you, Suti ma'am. And now I'll invite Sudipta Chatterjee ma'am, PGT English from DPS Arkipuram. And we also congratulate her on her achievement of becoming a CBSE resource person, NCRT resource person. You were destined for this. I mean, I knew it. You were so good at whatever you do. And I want to wish you all the best in all your endeavors. And I'm looking forward to a session from you very soon. I'll be very happy to attend that. So, Sudipta ma'am, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Matthew, sir. And it's all thanks to you, because you've been like such an amazing mentor. And thank you for bringing us all together here to speak about this very essential and crucial topic today. So, the erudite panelists have already talked at length, and you can see the energy. We have the people who have joined us who just want to kind of continue hearing and discussing and talking about this, which is absolutely amazing. So I would like to focus on sports and co-curricular activities, and how, abusive language has an impact not just on the mental health, but also the team morale and the overall discipline. And how is it that we can tackle these issues? So, of course, the onus, as we all know, lies on us, the educators, the teachers, but of course also the parents and the other stakeholders. Now, we must remember that this is a very it's a very challenging thing for all of us, but we must remember that each one of us can make a difference. And it's not just the class teacher who should be talking about these things in the classroom. It's all of us. Like Ms. Rima also rightly mentioned that it doesn't matter what subject you're teaching. At the end of the day, we need to be the role models for our children and tell them what is it that they need to keep in mind. So we can begin by talking about a couple of examples. Like you would remember that controversy that the former cricketer Harbhajan Singh got into with one of the Australian cricketers, and how using abusive language had a detrimental impact on his career. And also, it was like a national news which children were watching. So on one hand, we need to talk to them about examples like this, but also we need to talk about the other international federations like FIFA and NBA, who are actually promoting, the Fair Play Award, which goes to exceptional sports persons who are showcasing politeness, kindness, in the field. So that has to be talked about. And, I feel as teachers and educators, we need to create a new hashtag change the trend. Now, what is this trend that I'm talking about? So you would have seen a lot of times, we've all done that, right? We would call up the parents and talk to them about maybe someone who's not submitted the notebook, or behavioral issues, so it's always a negative phone call. And whenever children hear that, oh, ma'am is going to call up my mother or father today, they're always scared. So let's change the trend, hashtag change the trend, and let us find those students who have shown exceptional behavior in the classroom, be it kindness, be it compassion, be it empathy. And let's call the parents and tell them that, wow, do you know what has happened today? Your child, our student in the class has done something absolutely brilliant, and I want to bring it in front of the entire class and also tell you about it. So these are little things that we can all do, and we can bring about a change, because at the end of the day, it is us educators who will have to bring about that revolution. So let's not just wait for the award at the end of the year, but let's just begin that in the classroom in itself, so children look at us with a lot of respect. And respect is something that we as educators must again and again emphasize, because respect can also be used as an acronym. How? Let me tell you. R, well, stands for refrain. If you tell children, refrain from using any kind of abusive or inappropriate language, then you ask them to express in language which is appropriate. S then stands for speaking words of positivity. And when you are positive and you're empathetic, you come together, and that is what makes it respect. So please remember, RESPECT, and all of us need to respect each other and teach the children the right way in which we should communicate. So, these are just a few tips which I thought I would share with all of you. And I would just like to end by saying that kindness begets kindness. So, we have to change that trend. We have to tell the children that once you are kind, the ripple effect is such that it stays on and on for generations to come. And let us encourage children to make correct choices. Like Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter said, that it is our choices far more than our abilities that truly show what we really are. So, on that note, I ask Matthew sir to take the session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudeepa ma'am. So many changing the trend. I mean, it's a and Reema has already posted that on our YouTube, and I'm sure as more and more educators are going to listen to this session, we are indeed going to make a beginning. And when we are going to start a movement, I'm sure you are going to support it. All of you are going to support, and this chain becomes more stronger. And once people are convinced that this is a real problem, this is we have to find a solution for that, then I'm sure people are going to coordinate with us. And as principals, vice principals, as coordinators, as educators, or any stakeholder, parents, when we all join hands for a common cause, I think anything can be achieved. So we are going to change the trend. Thank you for bringing in this in today's panel discussion and making it so fruitful. Thank you. And if Alka ma'am and yeah, just 1 second. Alka ma'am, have you joined? Okay. So I will ask Nina to be the next speaker. Nina is, of course, my better half. So, and also the co-founder of the Educators Forum, and she is the founder of Mind and Me. And I will request her. I will not say anything more about her. She has a lot to say, I am sure. So it's over to you, Nina.
Thank you, Matthew. And I'm sure I have lots to share over here. And there could be some overlaps, but still, I'll try my best to share whatever I have in my mind, what I have practiced over the years with the children, and it has worked because I feel that empathy, if we talk about empathy, can it be taught? The answer is a resounding yes, it can be taught, but not as streamlined as mathematics or science. But empathy got to be embedded in the curriculum in such a way that every subject, every corner of the school has to reflect empathy. How? It takes not one day, week, month, but it takes years. And the seeds are planted right in the foundation years. Yes, because once the children are reaching a senior school level, what happens is there's a lot of focus on academics and they speed up, and empathy doesn't work with speed. It works, it has a nature's way, it's slow, it's a process. And how we can imbibe those skills is a skill, and it requires a lot of patience on part of the educators. And I thank All India Educators Forum to come up with this kind of a session where we are talking about empathy, because it's not cool, it's not fashionable, and it looks very weak and vulnerable to people because, oh, this person is too kind, or looks fake, or doesn't know, doesn't have the internal strength, because from the outside it doesn't show something which is very powerful, but it has the strongest strength of character that I can say what empathy is all about. And if we talk about the strategies or the methodologies, the pedagogies of empathy to be imbibed in the classroom, the first one which I use is the playground incentive for the younger students. Now, playground incentive is that you have those playground, giving a playground incentive to the children, saying that, okay, now we're going to make a line and go to the playground, maybe for 5 minutes, maybe, or maybe 10 minutes, but we are going to go. But you need to have those rules that, okay, now you're not going to make a you're not going to make noise, or you'll be, you follow a set of rules. Believe you me, because once it is the word playground, they connect very well, they listen very well, and they'll apply it very fast. Everything, whatever you say, and till it, and this is not just one time, once. It's like, over a month, they will learn how to make a line without making noise, whatever order you say, whether height order, alphabet order, roll number, anything. So once that is building the culture of the class. And you can have friendly matches in the playground where they face failure. Sometimes, when children are facing failures or rejection, that anxiety is there, and that comes out in the language or their behavior. So once they take failure and rejection in a very positive note and take it as a part of life, they will learn to be patient with life and understand that, okay, this is part of life, I have learned, and move ahead. Then another way is art to heart. So art for heart is like, you there are, in a class of 40 or 50, there are so many children who will not be well, not coming to the class for many days, or maybe have lost a parent, a grandparent, a loved one. So the rest of the class, what does it do? It can make get well soon cards, or cards of compassion, or something for the child who's not been coming. So that can be another way, because the entire class is being involved in being empathetic towards that one child. Then another, I can go into the details, but I'm sure you have already, listened for so long. So I'll try to finish it fast. The next incentive is having a court of law. That's my favorite, because in a class of 40 children or 50 children, there'll be 100 or 200 complaints for the children, from the children to the teacher. It's the teacher's jurisdiction and discretion to take up at least 3 complaints every day and have a court of justice. Have those children coming to complain explain their situation, why so and so said this, why he reacted, why she said this. So there, when we go into the cause of that, we come to understand the situation, and we are able to explain to them in a better way. So that court of law actually slows down the process of reading and writing, and the syllabus and the curriculum goes at the back, really. So as a teacher, I've always been behind as far as my writing in the exercise book is concerned, to as compared to the other teachers. But I have been lucky to be working in schools where the management has been really supportive to have those conversations with the class, and not just focus on academics. And then another one is the conversation cards that I have. Now, the conversation cards are really picked from books and these pictures. And for young children, it works very well. Now, for example, is it visible? No, not visible. Oh, so sad. Is it visible?
No, no. Yeah. Just a little bit, but
Okay.
not much. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So here, there's no words, but each child will have a perspective of this picture. Why the fight? And they can share their own personal instances they associated. And it's an amazing conversation that we come up with, because in that conversation, we are bringing in the empathy into that conversation. They are face to face with empathy, what it is. They feel for each other, they listen to each other, and they express freely about their the situations in their life. So then the teacher has that relationship maintained with the child. Then another thing that you can have is group work. Group work is something where I give them maybe a big chart paper, and 4 or 5 of them, they assigned a task. Now the task is not coming up with a beautiful picture. The goal is, for me, they don't know the goal. For me, the goal is, are they sharing? Are they listening to each other? Is one person dominating? And observing the entire group work, and then having a discussion on the group work. How was it? Did you feel left out? Was there someone who helped you? Were you heard? Were your points taken up? All those things uh, help in addressing conflicts and addressing some kind of conversation that children want to have. They once they learn to express in a very uh, gentle way things which they did not like. That is where we have to reach, because once they know how to express in a very gentle way, they will definitely not use abusive language or undesirable behavior. Then another thing is, this is a passport book of questions. Again, we have questions here. And this is again questions not based on knowledge, but something which will initiate a conversation, which will bring in a lot of creativity and experiences that they want to share. And I tried it with the youngsters, and I tried it with the seniors also, thinking that they will shun it down and they'll say that this is very boring. But every time the seniors are the ones who are asking, ma'am, can you take out the passport book and let's have the questions and the conversation. So they really enjoy, because I feel they want to be heard. So once they are heard somewhere, there is a space, they will be having an empathetic attitude towards life and their surroundings. The school needs to have the teachers, the helpers, the respect. I mean, the culture of the school should be like this, that it just reflects, and it's the behavior and the interactions, the actions of teacher and teacher management or teacher parent, that speaks louder than anything else. So they imbibe those skills also. And watching movies, zeroing down on empathetic movies, Pursuit of Happiness, Zootopia, Inside Out, Tare Zameen Par. There's so many movies. And watching with parents and is different, but watching in the school and talking about it in that space that makes a lot of difference, because you are bringing in the character, you are asking questions, and they are also sharing their feelings. So these are some of the ways where empathy can be taught, and there are many more, but I will hand over the floor to Matthew now. So thank you, Matthew, for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't take much time. I don't know, when I start speaking, I
No, no,
just.
thank you. You were appropriately timed, and you brought
Okay.
in so many beautiful points. Especially, I like the point which you shared about uh, people thinking that if you're empathetic and kind, you are weak. So that's something. I mean, you need to be. People don't realize that you're strong from inside. If you're kind, then that is a weakness. Many
Hmm.
people, so many people take it as a weakness, kindness. So they try to become aggressive.
Hmm.
Why? Because they have their macho. They want to be more charismatic. Because of so many influences outside, they think that being kind, you are soft, and people will make use of you. So this is something which I liked, and I think even as empathetic and kind educators, we can be strong people in whatever we do. Thank you, Nina, for sharing your insights. And I know that you have many activities that you have designed for your children, and which are very useful techniques. So, but thank you for bringing a gist of what you do, especially on the book of questions that you are developing, how to initiate conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
to end the session, we have Alka ma'am. Alka ma'am has joined. In spite, she was supposed to be the first speaker, but now she had an emergency. But in spite of that, I'm happy that she is here. And Alka ma'am, of course, is the founder of Chilparco International. She is an international rock star, if I can use that word, because she conducts sessions across the world. I don't know how many countries she has traveled and conducted sessions for so many people from so many countries. And she has been associated with the AIF in such a positive way. Especially, I remember during the COVID times, you were a great support in leading from the front, especially the global healers part in counseling and, and getting all our counselors in action, because so many educators and so many students required help. And she's also a talk show. I mean, when you sometimes when I'm going to school early morning, I will hear Alka Mahajan. Now our panelists and those who are viewers, they will, if you listen to Alka Mahajan's, she's there as a talk show host. She talks about beautiful things. And I'm glad that she joined here today in spite of the difficulties. I hope things have settled down, ma'am, at your place. And
Yes, they are. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. I'm relieved. And I'm glad that you could join this, because you were an integral
I
part
wouldn't
of this.
want to miss it for the world, believe
Thank
me.
you. Thank you so much. I mean, it's really, it's very encouraging for me that whomsoever I have asked, in spite of difficulties, also some people manage to come today. And of course, there are certain times when it is unavoidable, but thank you for coming in. And also, Alka ma'am, I want you to really speak about, because since you are on the media, so and
Yes.
that is something which we are all troubled. I mean, because our youngsters are hooked on to social media, Instagram, and all that. So,
Yes,
what
yes.
do you observe, and what is the solution?
All right. So, first of all, good evening to everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews. Absolutely phenomenal session happening here, a phenomenal panel discussion. And there were so many wonderful points that came across, especially the last few I heard. And your wife, your better half's fantastic activities, I think I'll use some of them for my granddaughter. So, that is the best part. Thank you so much to everyone. I mean, you all are doing an amazing job. But yes, I'll just come straight to the point. Social media, I think during the COVID time, so social media was actually given the crown, because it became the best thing. It became the only thing to connect people together. Social media, when we talk of social media, people started connecting with people from different parts of the country. People started, using it more for information to see what's happening all over the world. So in a way it was good because it worked as a connector. But then, somewhere down the line, because of social media taking even priorities in school, because we started online sessions. The students would be getting homework, which would say that, all right, watch this movie or do this or do this. So they had to, go home, at home itself, I'm sorry, but they had to look a lot at, what's happening on the media channels. So nowadays, if you notice, there are lots of content creators. They're creating these movies, and sometimes, they become a little. They tend to get a little carried away because they use language which is inappropriate. And students, the young learners, they are exposed to unfiltered social media content. And this being exposed to unfiltered social media content is the biggest problem. It leads to so many things. We've heard of cyberbullying, we've heard of body shaming, we've heard of setting this unrealistic standards, because see, whatever's said and done, social media world, there are very few people who keep it really the way they are. Mostly it is all a facade. People are so artificial, people are fake, and that is what the students, that is what the young learners catch on. If we actually see it, our 8-year-olds till 12-year-olds, they are really using language that is inappropriate. I think 45 to 50%. And the seniors, they are using 95% of them are using language which is unacceptable.
Now, they coolly use words, because like many of you did say that, it's cool to use certain things. It's cool to use words which sound very, for example, I mean, I don't want to really use them, but for example, a simple thing like calling their own teacher a pataka, because I've heard this myself. Ma'am, you're looking like a pataka. Now, this is not acceptable. And if we grin, if we smile, we are just, giving them this encouragement that, yes, it's absolutely perfect to use these words. So, somewhere down the line, we need to draw boundaries, we need to set standards, we need to remember that kindness gets lost when we start resorting to language which is not right. And you know what? Words have energy, words have power. The right word used can make a human being's life, and the wrong word used can actually mar that life. So we really need to be very careful. But again, at the same time, I would say that social media is not that bad also, because social media can be used in a brilliant way, not to impress but to impact. Now, how to impact, that is the thing. I mean, so many points have beautiful points have been shared, but I will say, Sudipta just mentioned, let's start hashtags. And I suddenly, jumped with joy, because that's what I had in mind. Hashtags are something good. Why can't we start kindness campaigns? Why can't we start a revolution of kindness on social media? Use it to inspire people. Because see, I always say, and I firmly believe this, that every individual is unique and unstoppable and unbeatable in their own way. We all have a quality within us that is used to empower others. And in this process, we get empowered ourselves. So, why can't we use our uniqueness to inspire others? Now, for example, I met this wonderful student. He's an artist, and this artist used his art to go around. Like, he went to the chartwala, he drew the chartwala's picture. The chartwala didn't know it, but he drew the picture, and then he showed it to him, and he put a smile on his face. And then similarly, he went to different little stalls, a vegetable one, the tailor, and what the tailor was doing, he just drew, simple sketching. What I'm trying to say over here is, these small acts, it became a campaign, and following him, his friends also started doing the same. So it's a campaign. A campaign begins on social media, can really take off in a beautiful way, and in the process also bring in a lot of inspiration and power. And I think that is what we need to do. There are social media campaigns which have been very successful. For example, the Dove campaign, which talked about body shaming, or we have that Swiggy campaign, which talked. They started using Instagram to send DMs, direct messages to their customers, which I think worked very, very well. Then, of course, we have the Me Too movement, women empowerment. We talk about that in a big, big way. So why can't we start a beautiful revolution of kindness on social media, rather than focusing only on the negatives? See, whatever said and done, it's a world of AI, and I hats off to AI. But at the same time, I feel it's marred creativity. And whatever said and done, the robots cannot replace teachers, us. We are the facilitators now, and no one can take that away from us. So we need to keep on facilitating. In school, it's us. At home, it's the parents. So we need to supervise and just, make sure, like we talked about communication. That's also important. Positive communication, the way we word, no negative words, but try to use words which are good, because we don't want children to be using words which are inappropriate. And then we cannot tell them, we're on screen the whole day, then we tell them, I'm snatching your phone. I've seen a parent doing that. So that developed a rebellious nature in the child, and then he took to social media, where he was talking about his mother. I hate her. I feel like running away from home and all that. So this again becomes wrong, and this is where we need to step in as facilitators. Social media is a beautiful platform. There are so many social media platforms which schools can also use: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Small videos, inspiring. So they're unique, whatever their uniqueness is, because they have a talent. Let's tap into that talent and use it to spread kindness and care. And this way, because peers are spreading that kindness, they will fall, and then everybody will fall in line with this beautiful revolution of kindness. So I could go on and on again, but then again, I love these smiles. Thank you for that lovely smile, Nina ma'am, and for all Reena ma'am also. And I see Stuti. Thank you so much for spreading smiles, because let's continue spreading smiles with our kind of inspiration, respect, care, because I say that everything, love, respect, care, empathy, all begin with a smile. So keep smiling, and let's make the world a beautiful place to be in. Yes, and we can connect international community also through our campaign. So this is a brilliant. We can take it on and on. So thank you so much, and thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. It's always wonderful to be here. And for anything in the world, I will never miss a session here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalka ma'am. I'm so glad that you finished it so well, in spite of all the so many panelists have
Now I
already
realize,
spoken.
Mr. Matthews, that being the last speaker or the panelist is the most difficult job, because you don't want to be you don't want to repeat, and you want to say something which is totally different. And I hope
But
I've tried to. I don't know, because I didn't
but
hear the
but
initial
you did it
speakers.
with so much of ease. I mean, that is what we all have to learn from each other. This is why, I mean, see,
Yes, yes,
sometimes.
absolutely.
So if that energy that you kept in, normally by the end of the session, people are sleeping and people want to, just go
No,
back.
I
Already
love
it's two
the
and a half
smiles.
hours.
Thank you so much to everyone.
And you
Yes,
put
yes.
in those energetic moments towards the end. It was like that it was like a relay race. The best speaker takes the best runner takes the baton, and he goes to win the race.
Thank you.
So you concluded it so well. Of course, a lot of
Thank you.
panelists contributed a lot of positive
Everyone.
comments,
Yes.
ideas, and so on. And we are going to change the trend. We are you said bring in a revolution of kindness, and
Kindness.
yes,
Hashtag lead with kindness.
lead with hashtag lead. So hashtag campaigns, and I think this is a start. And you never know how these trends go viral, and we are able to make a small difference in this big world. So thank you so much to all the panelists, to all the people who are very patient, right from 5:30 it's 8 o'clock. So we have covered about 2.5 hours. So once again, on this good note of starting a revolution of kindness, starting a revolution for empathy, let's change the trend and start this revolution. And thank you so much for all joining. And I'm sure that this is just the beginning. And we would like to, yes, so we have a special guest there. So that's what kindness is all about, learning from small children,
Say
and then
hi.
as they grow up, they're
Hello.
learning so much from the outside world.
Say
Hello.
hello.
So that made this session all the more authentic and beautiful, and the
Thank you.
presence.
She's
Yes, she's
clapping for
she's
all
also
of you.
clapping. She's happy with
She's
the
clapping
session.
for
So
all
thank
of
you,
you. Clapping.
thank you, and good night, all of
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And sir,
Thank you.
all the educators should flex their muscles. We have the power.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.